Hey everyone, today I just pulled into this little parking area. Right there we can tell there's some active railroad tracks, but right now we're on the old railroad tracks. This is cool. You're gonna see why I stopped here in a moment. This is obviously a dumping ground for people. Oh my gosh, that's disgusting. It's also a dumping ground of hunters. Or maybe this is just roadkill. Yeah, because none of the meat's taken. Oh, wow. I did not expect to find that. Amazingly, it doesn't smell. Maybe the wind is just blowing the other way. There's a ton of them. But I'm going to show you why we stopped here. We're on the old railroad grade. Look at that. We can even see an old telegraph pole, if you can make that out, right there in the center of the screen. Ah, focused horribly. There's a pretty big abandoned trestle right here. Oh, we're still finding bones everywhere that animals must be taking. So that explains why there's so many vultures right now. They're everywhere. Yeah, there's an invertebrate. Yeah, so that's probably roadkill. There's a lot of farms around here, and that usually means a lot of dead deer. I haven't personally seen any dead deer since I've been in Illinois, but I've only been here maybe half a day. I saw a couple dead boar in Arkansas yesterday. Okay, we got ballast right now. I think we're coming up on that bridge. Something that I associate with places like Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi. I didn't realize cypress trees grow up here, and they're beautiful. The cypress trees up here seem to be fatter, bigger. And I looked it up. They can even grow in southern Canada and would likely survive in my area if I planted one. That's really cool. So here we are, an abandoned trestle that looks to be thousands of feet long. We're gonna see what shape it's in. See the very dirty coffee color looking water. It's been raining out a bit. And it's a nice looking culvert. So, these old bridges, they use so much creosote as a preservative that they last a long, long time when they're abandoned. This whole area, you can tell, has washed out over the years. This side held, and what I'm noticing there, maybe during a flood, see that right there? From there to there was more timbers and they just gone. But look at this. There's a lot of overgrowth here, so I'm not gonna try walking across it. But if you look down, this is actually in very good shape. Barely rotted with all the preservatives in it. That piece right there has rotted away real quickly. It maybe wasn't preserved that much. See the bolts sticking out. Whatever you call that piece of wood that just holds everything together, that's gone. But the ties, the structure underneath are gone. I mean the ties and the structure underneath is in perfect shape. Really thick timbers that were absolutely drenched in the creosote, and I can even smell the creosote. Still very strong, like the day it was made. So I'm gonna walk down here to give you a better view. Step down. Wow. It's interesting to see that they incorporated a piece of concrete in the wooden bridge. I have never seen that before. I've seen a lot of old bridges, but never the concrete like that. And that beam right there is so thick. I wouldn't be surprised if this is still standing in another 100 years. It's probably been here for 100 years. And driving around in the lower middle of the country, I have noticed there's a lot of bridges like this, actually. Tons of them that are still active with trains. And I'm noticing that this is obviously a replacement bridge. I noticed up here that there was a couple pieces that aren't doing anything. But now that I'm seeing way down here, there was clearly another bridge built the same way, got a little rotten, they chainsawed them all off, and they put new posts right next to it. Yeah, this stuff lasts forever, creosote. And it's still used these days by the railroad. They say it has unknown effects on the environment, but as a resident, you can't buy it for some reason. But the government's still allowed to smear it everywhere. They say it has unknown effects on the environment. But then there's countries like Australia that say it's a carcinogen. So that's why they don't want you using it. This is an interesting construction too. Look at that. It looks like that's just sitting on there, because what you're seeing is a railroad spike that doesn't go all the way down through that. That piece, it's still there. They thought it was good enough, and it turns out it was. You know, let's walk across. This bridge goes and goes for quite a while. We're gonna follow it for a little bit, and maybe I'll just walk back on the roadway later to make life a little easier. Is this bamboo growing here? Yeah, it looks like we have bamboo. I've always wanted to plant some of that. I think it's cool how it stays green in the winter. So the reason they built it like this is because this area floods a lot. We're kind of close to the Ohio River, and you can tell this is all floodplains. So this just floods everywhere I'm walking, and that's why there's such long bridges on the road too. Sometimes it just floods. And look at this big old tree sitting on that. At this point, I kind of wish I was still up there because there's not much growth on it at the moment. Ooh, look at that rot. A lot of times I'll be walking in the woods and I'll find like a telegraph pole that they cut off, like they cut off the old bridge. And you notice 100 years later, the inside is completely dissolved to soil because it only penetrated an inch or two. But the outside shell with creosote all over it is still existing. And for some reason, see, perfect shape, that one rotted. Look at this whole forest of bamboo. There's another concrete piece. And now that we're about to get under the bridge for the roadway, where obviously all the current is coming through, maybe that road wasn't there when this was built, probably not. It flowed through everywhere. This is something that really caught my attention from the road. Right here. Look at this clog. That's maybe poison ivy there. This is one of the biggest clogs I've ever seen. Look at that. Maybe eventually it'll put enough pressure on the bridge where it pushes it out. But at the moment, nope. There was also a ton of erosion here. Look at this. It goes down about 8 feet in front of me. But yet, these were driven into the ground super deep. Hasn't washed any of them out. But you can tell that, you see where they cut off the old bridge? That was probably about ground level. Just look at that. And it washed that much. Even the old supports underground where there's not much oxygen, they didn't even rot. And there's a bunch of uprooted trees right here. This is pretty interesting. And there's the end of the bridge. Let's see if there's any way to get over there without walking across the traffic bridge. You gotta be careful, there's a lot of pricker bushes. Beautiful big oak trees. Wonder if we'll see any cypress down here. Down the road I saw a good amount of it. I'm looking up at the tree canopies and I don't see any. They got a nice shape to them. See this? It's just right into a farmer's field because it doesn't always flood, and it usually floods before the growing season, so it wouldn't really damage too much. We're gonna walk under the bridge because there's less growth right here. What do you think? Is the DOT the one dumping all the deers? Or do you think it's residents picking them up and dumping them? That might be the DOT. My area used to have a spot where they dump deer, moose, whatever gets hit. But then they said it might be causing disease because the animal's eating these very rotting things, so they started burying it. They'd have like a giant pit that they would dig every week or so, fill it up and bury all the animals to prevent nasty areas. Thankfully it's kind of cool out. It's maybe 50 degrees, middle 40s. Okay, look at the water, how it looks blue. There's a ton of sulfur around this area. That's what causes that. Very, very deep. Looks like if that support wasn't here, maybe I'd be able to go across, but I don't think I'm going to get across that at the moment. But maybe we'll just have to walk back up on top of this and over it. That's what I think I'm going to do right now. And this bridge here is also not original. When they tear down bridges like this, they'll come in here with a jackhammer on the end of an excavator and slowly deteriorate all this. Well, here's all the rebar, and see pieces of the old bridge that they just left here. So definitely they jackhammered the old bridge and they just left all the broken pieces of concrete and rebar here from the old bridge. We're out in the middle of nowhere. Doesn't really matter. Now they don't have to put gravel here for erosion control, since this area has trouble growing grass. Being in the shade, it would help erode the new supports if they didn't put anything. So laziness has a benefit, except for the rebar, which is kind of sharp. If I trip on it, see lots of sharp things sticking up that I just gotta watch out for. But I'm gonna try now to get back to my truck by walking across that abandoned bridge, because it appears to be in good shape, every section of it, and it's only appears to be overgrown at the end where I'm parked. I don't know what you might be able to see from Google Maps, but here we are. And we're in close enough proximity to the Ohio River that this will flood. Okay, not that long of a bridge. But I like to show how this area at certain times of the year definitely severely floods. Because this bridge, without knowing how much this area can actually flood, like all these fields would just fill up with water every now and then. People would wonder why they have a bridge that looks like it's maybe 10 times bigger than they need for this size river. And look at the erosion. That's a good maybe 10 feet. Right there, see all those skid marks right there? Some animal's been struggling to get up that muddy slope. There's some old abandoned power lines that aren't doing anything anymore. May have been houses and stuff around here long ago at some point. Sometimes I see something interesting, I get out and check it out, and I'll notice a whole bunch more than I expected. Because you don't see stuff when you're exploring very well if you just sit in the vehicle and point out the windows. So sometimes you gotta get out and explore a little bit on foot. That's what we're doing today. Let's get back to that bridge. I want to go this way even though there's some pricker bushes, because I want to take a look at this slippery slope as I'm walking. I'm trying to knock down things along the way so they don't stick me. So the water looks murky, but it's probably cleaner than it appears. All the water down here is tinted like that from sulfur. And some of the water from the sulfur actually smells pretty bad, like a fart. Oh, this is actually a really good view. Look at that. It's a good view. I see there's a trail right here, if you can make that out. Some kind of creatures walk here often, maybe a raccoon or a fox. And look at these trees struggling with their roots to not fall into the water. Over here, a bunch of the rocks to control erosion are starting to fall down into the water. It's an insanely big dam. If you can tell from top to water surface is maybe 8 feet. Water's pretty murky, but it's potentially a 12-foot dam right there. And in a big flood, this could cause damage to active infrastructure. So as you saw, there's a new active railroad downstream. And that would mean if this ever built pressure and broke loose, you're going to have this whole 12-foot wall of debris floating its way down to the new bridge, instantly getting stuck, possibly causing damage or causing water to go over the new bridge. Now, will I actually be able to make it across this? Most definitely, but the question is, how easy. There's some pricker bushes up here, but if it's like the other side, it should get better as we go. These are some bad thorns. At least we know that these beams are super solid. I'm not gonna break through any of them. It's an older bridge. It doesn't even have I-beams like the newer ones, but it's got super thick timbers. As long as I don't drop my camera, I'm fine. This wet wood is very slippery though. It's been raining today. I do see a little broken section right here that we're gonna have to watch out for. Now this one, yeah, that one's not looking too good there. So I'm gonna stay right here where I can see the actual beam is. Yeah, if I'm walking here, can't really fall through even if some of these are rotten. Like this one clearly rotted through. Yep, I'm just gonna keep my footing right here. And that should be good. Okay, these are all in perfect condition again. Just a few oddball ones right there had rotted. And you can see if this ever did push out this bridge, it's gonna go down there, and that looks like a smaller culvert or whatever. It could affect the active railroad that is right down there. All right, so now that we're out here, parts of this bridge are a little bit more rotten than I expected, so we just got to step where the major beams are, stay away from the center. And I can tell before even stepping on them if they're good or not. Like, this one's perfect. This one's not too good. Decent, perfect. Just gotta be careful. Now it's like forcing me into the center a bit, but the center appears to be okay right here. These two are certainly very strong. These are so-so. That one right there is another really strong one. I don't see any more weak ones, and I see some really, really good ones coming up. Now I just gotta step over all this stuff. And at least if I drop my camera now, there's no more water beneath us. And now everything is in perfect shape again. Look at that. This dark, dark wood is perfect shape. And you see how there's more moss on the edges and not the middle? I would say that's because when they ripped it up, they left a bunch of holes from the railroad spikes. And those railroad spikes allow moisture inside, and I think that actually caused it to rot a little bit. And that we got, maybe, to me that looks like raccoon poop, or possibly fisher cat. This is like a maze. Okay, every single one now for the foreseeable view of sight looks strong. Look at the piles of creosote on these. Is that still wet? No. I have touched ones before where that's actually still malleable. You can still smell it though. Treading very lightly. Probably the first person to go across in a couple of years. I don't think it's been that long. Lots of people like exploring this type of stuff. We might have a little trouble coming up. You see how we have a whole forest growing in the middle of the bridge here, since there's a bunch of debris, soil that allowed plants to grow. Now we can't see the unstable spot, so I better keep over this beam. These ones are all right, but am I gonna find some like I think that are so-so? Let's see. Absolutely. This one just feels like soil. I'm just sinking into it, but I'm confident in those massive, which look like maybe 12 by 20 at least, massive beams underneath. Okay. I am now lightly getting the pricker bushes off of me. These pricker bushes are angry. Ouch. Oh my gosh. Pricker bushes. And is that poison ivy vines? Maybe poison oak? I'm not allergic to that stuff though. I've never been. Ouch. Okay, this has now become like a game of ouching. Oh my gosh. Oh no, do I have to turn around? This is painful. Ooh. This has become painful now. Ouch. And there's so many of them that I am having issues crushing them all. Ow. I'm gonna definitely be scratched up a little bit. Oh, come on. Come on, just let me through. Ouch. Considering I gotta go over that, and there's like another 30 feet of this horrible stuff, or I can walk back through maybe, ouch, 6 feet of mostly crushed down pricker bushes. I'm going back. I've had enough of this. I don't need these stupid pricker bushes to distract me where I walk off of this beam, because where I'm walking right now, the railroad ties are gone basically. There's no structure. I can just feel my feet melting down to that beam. It's safe as long as I stand here, but I'd rather not. I didn't even get to the worst spot yet of those pricker bushes, but we got to walk on some of this. I got to show the structure a good amount, so we're gonna walk back. We're gonna walk back across the traffic bridge. I thought we would have been able to go across this, but no, we could not. So I just gotta be very weary now of what I'm walking on the way back. But at least I know the bridge slightly now, coming back. Just looking at the beams. Go slow enough where I can visually inspect everything again. Yeah, I love these oak trees. Nice. Okay, we're making our way back. Maybe 5 more minutes, we'll get back to the end. I love these roadside finds. If this bridge wasn't allowed to grow in like this, it would probably be in very, very good shape. The structure down below is still great. So if they ever wanted to make this into something, like an ATV trail or something, I don't think snowmobiling in around this area, southern Illinois, is really something people do too often. It feels very warm. Meanwhile, at my house, I got 2 feet of snow that I gotta clear when I get back there in a couple of days. Here, I'm actually sweating right now in a t-shirt. and it's December. Okay, these are decent, so-so, but I'm still on top of that beam. Yeah, this one's bad. This next one's bad. See, whole thing's moving around a little bit. Okay, this one's good, right? Yeah, good. Because we gotta be in the middle now. Get around this stuff. Okay, these are decent enough. It's all about common sense on these bridges. This is actually not the worst one I've gone across. It's just a pain in the butt because of the trees and pricker bushes, which could distract you. See, some of these are bad. The ones that were under the leaves were bad, and right here, I don't know what happened right here in the center of why this became so bad when the ones around it are okay, but look at that. It's got to be what, an 8 by 20, and there's a whole bunch of them. Super strong wood. And look, there's even an old railroad plate. There used to be writing on that, but it's so pitted. I'm not going to get a date off that. Most railroad parts will have a date. Do any of these have dates? Sometimes the nails will have dates. Looks like there's something there, but I can't really make it out. A lot of these, every piece of wood back in the day would have a nail pounded into it with a number, and it would be the date it was put in. Like, I can read these, but that's not a date. And these days with telephone poles and stuff, wooden infrastructure, they'll do inspections every 10 years or so, and they'll pound a nail into it that says the last time it passed inspection. That one says Victor, 3/4 inch, but no date. It looks like there's a ton of raccoon poop up here. Ouch. Those small animals like that can go across this. And that is a bigger poop. That might be a fox. Ouch. Let's go right through my pants. That, ow, I just grabbed one as if it was a handle. These look like maybe blackberries. I'm not sure what these prickers are. Blackberries have big thorns. Raspberries, they're not as aggressive. They're not as painful when you touch them. But whatever I'm touching now seems to be pretty itchy, the holes it's making. And it's got a number 403 right there. Reflective numbers nailed to that. I don't know if that's a mile marker or identification of this bridge. And there's more bridges like this. If I walked another half a mile, I'd find one. There's more of them. Just decided to stop at this specific one because of the debris blockage, which I found cool. Alright, we're safe now. And I showed at the beginning of the video, but look, I'm wearing my fluorescent corn. Look at that. And the back of it, if you can see, has, am I showing it? Bigger corn. I like this. It's kind of like a safety shirt. It's very bright. And it blends in perfectly with fall colors like maple trees and birch. It's like camouflage for those types of situations. And there's a lot of poison oak. They say that, I think it's 30% or 20% of people don't get it. I've never got it, but apparently increased exposure, you could become allergic to it. It doesn't make any sense to me. Most allergies get better with exposure, but this I think is one that doesn't. I remember as a kid, I would just do gardening and I would rip it out with my bare hands. Did that for years. Never once had a reaction to it one bit. But then I know people that will just graze it and then touch other parts of their body and be covered in it. Thankfully, I don't have that problem. I don't seem to be allergic to basically any plant that bothers other people. I'm not allergic to sumac, I'm not allergic to goldenrod, all those things that tend to bother people. I have a thorn stuck in my butt right now. It's gonna hurt if I sat on it in the car. Alright, time to get back out of here. This is, I'm assuming, another sign. Yep. This is a clogged drain. It's missing a bolt there, but it won't budge. It's pretty clogged up. And so it's a pipe, and it just comes out right here. It's buried in the leaves. That's pretty interesting. Why is the drain even there? What water's actually going to get directed to it? Maybe a little off the bridge, but seems pretty pointless to me. Especially since the bridge has a drain every 8 feet or so. It looks like they were just trying to use up their budget with that one. Yeah, it doesn't even come out underneath the bridge. It just comes out with right there where I'm thinking is a little depression in the ground. I know DOTs and public works departments, they got to use up their budgets, but maybe I should make a compilation sometime of infrastructure that exists but doesn't necessarily do anything. Alright, I'm going to end the video here, everyone. I hope today's video was interesting. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.